Welcome to my shop. In my last video I mentioned doing a review of the Artisan sewing machine. Specifically, this is going to be a review of the Artisan Toro 3200 Pedestal Style machine. This is a replacement of my Toro 3000 made by Artisan as well. The difference between the 3000 and the 3200 is that the 3200 has a 12-inch throat, whereas the 3000 has a 9-inch throat. The modifications that Artisan has made with this machine are significant. I'll get into some of those, and then we'll do some stitching. The main modification that you'll notice in terms of your illumination is Artisan has this mag-mounted light. It's an LED light, and it has two modes of brightness. It has a bright and a dim. Bright and dim. And it may not show up on the video, but the dim is about 50% less than the bright. Also, the LED light has an articulating arm that can allow you to kind of illuminate your workspace from multiple different angles. So the other modification that I've noticed right off the bat with Artisan is they've moved the bobbin winder that used to be mounted on the top of the table to the rear of the machine, and it's now mounted directly onto the machine. As you can see, I'm winding a bobbin right now, and what I like to do is have a bobbin on the bobbin winder while I'm working, so if I run out of thread I can immediately grab a new bobbin and put it in the bobbin shuttle. So another very good modification that Artisan has come up with and implemented into their design. You'll also notice that there used to be two chains that connect the presser foot and the pedal that connects to the power, and Artisan has replaced the pedal that connects to the power with an all-electronic system. So there's no more chain that actuates the motor. It's now electronic, and so that leaves just one chain that connects directly to the presser foot. You'll also notice that there are these heavy-duty casters on the bottom of the pedestal, and these lock in place so you can move the machine around, and the casters are very smooth. And then once you have it where you want it to be, you just press down the lock and lock it in place. The drawer that comes with the new machine is a lot deeper and has smoother action than the previous machine. It's about 3.5 inches deep by 4 inches wide by 15 inches long. And it holds all your tools and components, needles and bobbins. The most significant modification that Artisan has come up with, though, although those other mods are good, the most significant one is they've moved all of the electronic and motor components from underneath the table to the top of the table. So the speed control is now on top of the table, and the motor is also on top of the table. And that allows you to do any replacement of parts without having to crouch underneath. The motor, you'll also notice, is significantly smaller than previous motors. It's about 7 inches from the end of the drive shaft to the rear of the motor. And although it's significantly smaller, it has much more power than previous motors as well. So all in all, the modifications that Artisan has made with this machine are significant, but the most significant is the location of the speed control and the location and power of the motor. So they've reduced the size of the motor and added more power to it. So this thing will power through over 1 inch of leather or other material that the machine is built to stitch. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to thread the machine, and then I'll stitch a holster so you can get a sense of the action of the machine. And so that's what we're going to do right now. To start threading your top thread, you're going to place the thread through the eye in the thread stand from back to front. From the thread stand, you're going to feed the thread through the eye, cinch it in between the tensioners, and then feed it again through the eye. and pull down. From the top tensioner, you're going to feed the thread through the eye at the bottom tensioner. And you're going to wrap the thread around once and then come back up a second time. Back through the same eye. And then through the eye that's just to the left of the bottom tensioner. From the bottom tensioner, you're going to bring the thread back up to the thread arm and feed it in from back to front and pull through. From the thread arm, you're going to feed the thread through the thread guide. And there's an eye just below that thread guide. You're going to feed the needle through, or the thread through. And then there's an eye on the shank that the needle goes into. And you're going to feed the thread through that. And then you have the eye of the needle itself, and you're going to feed the thread through front to back. And then the last step, you're going to feed the thread through the center presser foot. Top down. And that's how you thread the top thread on your machine. Winding the bobbin is easy. You're going to fit this hole onto this peg, and you're going to put the thread through this hole on the outside. You could put it on this hole, but it could tangle inside over here, so I keep the thread on the outside. And I fit it onto that peg. As you can see, it's locked in. I take up the slack, press that down. It's not going to do anything unless you press this down. And hold on to the slack. And then you hit the pedal for the motor and start winding. Once you've gotten it a little bit wound up, you can then cut off the slack and finish winding the bobbin. You might have to help it along as it winds. You want to get a nice even wind on the bobbin. As you can see, as the thread loads up on the bobbin, this starts to move up. And what you can do when you're sewing is you can actually have this already loaded up, so as you're stitching your work, you'll always have a bobbin being wound. Some people will let this thing wind without helping it along. I like to kind of make sure that I use my fingers to sort of help slide it along. And the bobbin is wound. You don't want to wind it all the way to the outside edges. You want to give it a little bit of space. If you wind it all the way to the outside edge, it can get hung up inside your bobbin shuttle. And it has this neat little sort of hook here. You can keep your excess thread for when you're going to wind another bobbin. To load the bobbin, you take off the bobbin shuttle cover, and there's a button right here, little metal lever. You push up, and the bobbin shuttle opens up. To place the bobbin in, you have the thread coming off from the bottom. Slide it in, and you pull, and you'll see the thread feed through these two fingers here. Pull out about 8 inches, and to get that bobbin thread up, you take your top thread, you drive the needle down, and you'll see that top thread come and grab the bobbin thread, and it pulls it up. Replace the bobbin shuttle cover, and you're ready to stitch. Before you stitch, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a towel and just wipe your presser feet, because there's going to be oil that's going to come down and you'll get it on your work. So just wipe it a little bit. And now we're ready to start sewing. To set the speed control, you turn the unit on, press and hold the down button until you get to S.0. Hit the up button 3 times until you get to S.3. And then you can hit the down button or the up button. Each time you hit the button, it adjusts in increments of 100 RPMs. For example, that's 800 RPMs, 900, 1000, 1100 RPMs, and so on. I keep my machine at 900 RPMs because I stitch quite slow. And that's it. All right, to start, you're going to advance the needle to the space where you want to stitch. Grab the pigtails and begin. Because I'm stitching an entire circuit, I'm not going to back tack, because I'm going to come back around to the same space. And I'll back tack at that point. When you do your turns, always turn with the needle down. Never turn when the needle's up, otherwise you'll end up with a very long stitch. On the straightaways, you can really let the machine take off. But I'm a traditionally slow stitcher. I don't stitch fast. I'm not shooting for speed, I'm shooting for accuracy when I stitch. And I'll take a picture of this holster when it's completed. Probably notice it may have some pen marks on it, stuff like that. None of that stuff shows up when I'm done. I'm able to remove all of those imperfections and make a very clean holster. So it may not look like much right now, but once it's molded and everything else, you'll get a sense of the detail. You'll notice every time the needle goes down, I just rotate the material just a hair, and that's because I'm doing my turns while the needle is in the leather. As you come back around, you want to make sure you grab the pigtails again, so that way you don't stitch over them. You want those out of the way. And this is where I'm going to be back tacking, right here. You might run out of space like I did, so you'll have a short stitch. That's not a big deal. And just 1, 2, throw it in reverse. Pull the material out. And there's your stitched holster. This is your top thread and your bottom thread. And that's what you're looking for. The knot is in between the leather. It's in between these two seams. So now this holster is ready to be edge burnished and molded, and at the end of the video I'll take a picture of this holster when it's completed so you can see exactly how it looks molded, burnished, and detailed.